Hey Radius, welcome to the fall season of small groups. I'm so excited that each and every one of you are here with us and in community together. We're going to have an awesome season. I wanted to take a minute to say hello and just talk to you a little bit about what to expect from groups this fall. If you've been in groups before, it might feel a little bit different to you. If you're new to groups, it might be nice to know what you've gotten yourself into. So groups at Radius are meant to be environments where we can connect in community and where we can grow deeper in our faith. And we grow deeper in our faith through community. God created us to be in community. It's a really important part of our spirituality and part of the faith experience. And so that's what these small groups are for. And I'm so excited to have all of you with us in these groups. You're going to hear your group leaders talking about a couple of different things this season that we're focusing on. One is this idea of application. We really want to try to be intentional this season with applying what God is teaching us and what God is showing us, applying that to our lives. So whether it's something that we learned on Sunday morning through Joseph's teaching or through the scripture, whether it's something that God is kind of revealing to us or showing us through our discussion or through our scripture reading in groups, we want to try each week to take one simple thing, one simple takeaway that God is showing us and really be intentional about applying that to our life. Now, it's not meant to be a big chore or a big time commitment or anything like that. It's meant to be really simple. What's one insight or one thing that we can focus on applying to our lives? So you're going to hear your leaders talking about that and challenging you in that way. And you're also going to hear your leaders talking to you about spiritual habits or practices. Spiritual practices are just that. They're things that we do, they're ways that we practice the faith that help us to connect better with God. I'm sure all of you have experienced life in the same way, in that it can be really chaotic. Our lives can be busy. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of distraction. And those things can often kind of become interference between us and our connection with God. And what spiritual practices do are they're just habits. They're just techniques or things that you can engage in that kind of quiet that noise, sort of shut it off for a period of time and help us to try to connect with God in different ways. And so we're going to experiment with one spiritual practice. We're going to practice it together each season of groups and see what that's like. There's a lot of different spiritual practices and habits. It's something that has actually been a part of the Christian faith for a very long time, but you don't hear people talking about it as much anymore. It's kind of not the forefront of conversations, but they can be super, super helpful. So here's an example. There have been a number of periods of time in my life where I felt like I was struggling with something. I was maybe looking for direction from God, or I wanted help from Him in making a decision. And I was praying about it, and I felt like I was really seeking His direction, but I didn't feel like I was getting anything back. And probably what would have really been beneficial for me in those times in my life was to incorporate some of these habits into my life that help me to connect with God and sort of help me to be able to listen better and kind of cut through all of the noise that becomes a distraction and kind of keeps me from being able to interact with Him. So there's things like listening prayer, there's meditative reading, there's practices of discernment. There's all kinds of different things that I could have done. I just didn't know about it. So I think what's great about us incorporating these practices into our lives now is that, we're all starting to learn how to do this. And that's really all it is just learning how to do it. It's a practice. It's called that for a reason. We're never going to be perfect at it. I'm never going to be an expert. You're never going to be an expert. That's like not even a thing. These are just ways that we try to connect with God, and we kind of experiment with them in our lives, and different practices will have a meaning for you at different times in your life, and others might have less meaning for you. So we're going to learn about some of that together. And the first practice that we are going to engage in groups this season is called meditative reading. So meditative reading is a way of connecting with the Bible, or really you can do it with any text. It doesn't have to be the Bible, but we're going to focus on the Bible in our groups this season, of course. Meditative reading is a way of approaching a text from a more relational point of view. So the way that we typically read in life and the way that we're taught through school and through our culture is to approach reading from an informational point of view. So it's about analysis. It's about absorbing as much information as possible, kind of like downloading as much information into our brains as we can. Meditative reading is different in that it's not about analysis. It's about letting the text speak to us. It's about sitting with it and kind of making friends with it a little bit. It's about a two-way connection. And you can do that it's pretty cool how you can do that with the Bible, because, the Bible is not a book that's like a regular book. It's not meant to be read like a regular book, cover to cover. It has a lot of different styles of writing in it. Some of it's historical, some of it is prophetic, some of it is poetry. And so it invites us to interact with it in different ways besides just reading it in kind of an analytical way. We also believe that the Bible is special because it's God-breathed. So we believe that God breathed his Spirit into that writing, and because of that, he can breathe it into us. And meditative reading is a way to kind of open the channel for that to happen. So your leaders are going to be practicing that with you in groups. We're going to experiment with that in groups with some different kinds of meditative reading exercises. They're going to lead you through that. I'll be honest, it might feel a little weird at first. It's a very different way to approach reading. That's okay. We're just experimenting, right? So give it a chance. See how it goes. See what God does with it. Let him have that space in our lives to try something a little bit different. I would encourage you also to practice meditative reading throughout the week. It's a really cool thing to do. It's simple, it's easy, it doesn't take a lot of time, and it can become a very meaningful practice for us to have in our lives, a way for God to speak to us and help us to hear what he's trying to say. So those are the two focuses for groups this year. Again, I'm so excited that you're here and you're a part of this, that we're going into this journey together. I would just say that it can take a little bit of time sometimes for community to feel like it's developing. So hang in there. It might take a minute before you start to feel like you're really connecting as a group, and that's okay. Consistency is really the secret sauce for building community. Relationships don't cement immediately. It happens over time. So be consistent, keep coming back, pray for each other, communicate with one another, and let's all just open ourselves up to see what God does in these communities and does in our lives this season. So thanks so much. Can't wait to hear how it's going for you, and until next time, bye.